Now when I'm still playing Europa Universalis, whatever, turn around 35. When I did the economic stuff and mentioned it and sealed off the last video, I forgot to mention something kind of interesting. This is the first time I think I've done this ever, is to build a Presidio. The French had to pay like 75 bucks on this, 25 for the level 2, 50 for the level 3 fortification. They have the cash. That's something that's usually not the case, and that will really reduce the possibility, even if Tunisia breaks away from them, of being able to privateer the French. Basically, it's another line of defense. The privateer has to run those guns at the fort to make a chance of getting out. How exactly that's done doesn't appear at all covered in the rules. They get to shoot at it as though it's a regular combat. Well, you don't shoot privateers in regular combat. So I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to allow a level... what I'm probably going to do is level 3 fortress will give a +3 bonus. A privateer gives a -1, so I'll be +2 on the privateering table, but I have no idea. Anyway, just wanted to touch on that as we start. By the way, looking at the English, Cromwell managed to eliminate the spare royalist army that was kicking around up here. Last time that basically destroyed or defeated Cromwell. I don't know if it succeeded in destroying him, but now the way's open to attack James in Anglia, and it looks like the tide may be turning in England. Okay, well, we move our way into the second round, and wow, sort of the calm before the storm, I guess. There's really not a lot going on. The Russians and the Poles did a little dance. The Poles moved into Tula. The Russians were able to escape from them, gather their army, but instead of coming around and trying to slam into them, they decided to stop at Kazan because they think they have a better chance of completing their siege there before the Poles complete theirs at Tula, and then they can slam up and break that siege. These are risky types of actions, but the Russians kind of need to take risks in order to win a war against Poland at this point. Over here on the Turkish front, oh boy. Well, the Turks actually force-marched from Angara all the way down. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 movement points. Oh, they gotta get their ship out. I gotta make them check for that. I think that's pretty much guaranteed. It's on the one table at -3. I roll about as high as I can, so we get to actually check that. So if I haven't done this part before, the attrition table, I go to the one table -3, 9, and I rolled, I get a 6. That does no damage, and you get percentage loss of the force as you go. Normally you'll roll... That wasn't on the one table. Oh yeah, for the Navy. Yeah, the land force had to roll on the 7 table. They almost always have to, except for siege attrition, in which case they roll on the 5 table. I don't know what happens if you're inside. Being inside in a siege is very bad, though, so... It gives a penalty, and the only thing it helps is the assaults themselves. Some of the people, well, France in particular, moved their forces around to reposition for the potential upcoming, well, for the known upcoming war. The Spanish didn't, because there's advantages to them being in Castile, but I think actually they should have, but they didn't want to spend money moving. Dutch gave up here on Amor and moved instead to Carnatic, where the money's bigger. Yes. Stuyvesant is pretty useless to them. All he can do is explore stuff. And exploring stuff's not very valuable if you have nowhere to... If you don't have the leaders to be able to put down new colonies and the like. But there is one place that's tremendously valuable, which is here, the Potosi silver mines. They're worth 50 gold instead of the normal 20. Stuyvesant's moved here in order to go discover them. Those might be worth opening up the added, and we had a deflation event, by the way. The inflation's down to 25%. The added inflation rate for hauling gold into Europe. On the other hand, even if it's not, they could trade the knowledge of this to the Spaniards, who definitely want it, or in a couple of turns the Spaniards will get it anyway, but by doing so, maybe helping one of their allies in the upcoming war. They don't think Spain's a real threat to them. And by cementing good relations, by discovering something for them, hey, what the hell. All right. So I wanted to come down here. The Turks force marched into Egypt. Took some losses doing so, but it gave them that tremendous Turkish army in terms of infantry, and they also were able to bring a couple of pashas down, which they could have done without the force march. In fact, you can't force march pashas. But the Mamluks attacked and they were disintegrated. I think the Mamluks are done by now. It would take a really big stretch of luck to get past. Whoops. We've got a level 4 on the siege. We've got a breach, which I think I forgot to add in again. And a lot of bonuses from prior rounds. It's almost guaranteed to fall by now. In fact, no, it wouldn't have. Anyway, I think they're finally done. Alright, we'll continue on. Just wanted to jump in because at this point, Turkey has conquered the Mamluks. And they got like 22 victory points for that. And I don't give them the surrender victory points because it doesn't seem to express that it's a regular surrender. Anyway, they get the 22 for the land, they got the additional income. It looks impressive. Now, here's the issue. This thing, well, first of all, it moves to Smyrna. But how much is it worth is one of the big questions I've always had in the game. If you follow the rules, and I think I will at this point, although I've got this little note here that says levels for it, which, you know, I may have gotten that out of an answer, out of an errata, out of something, or I may have just made it up, which is what I actually believe. But it says you lose $10 for the first 5 colonies or trading posts by Christian players in India or Asia, Siberia accepted. And then it's -10 for each additional 5, and -10 for each commercial fleet, and then 50 penalty if Turkey and Persia are at war. Now, the real question is how much of an effect should it have? So let's say it's per colony, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That would be -10, or at worst -$15. If it's per level, this thing becomes worthless after a short period of time. I don't know which makes more sense. I really don't. I don't have... My understanding was that essentially this did dry up. The Silk Road stopped being used. It will never stop being used if you use these normal rates, right? Because I'm -30 and some fleets, there's always going to be some money moving through there. However, if I take levels, which I've got written down, then it's already valueless. For the sake of Turkey being so weak late in the game, I'm kind of tempted to try and play this with the thing as written in the original rules, whether or not that was an errata. Because I don't know how to dig that up and find out, was it an errata or is that just something I made up? So what we're at -30, and how many levels of fleets was it? Each Christian fleet, so it could actually go down significantly. So wait, we were at -3 levels, -4 levels. It's going to be worth $60. On top of that $60, there's something called the Smyrna Convoy, which if I can find it, well, I'll find it some other time. Anyway, it's one of these little trading fleet things, but it's green instead of orangish, and the Turks allocate that to someone as long as Smyrna is still worth something. It becomes a $50 trading fleet that they give to someone. If they don't give it to the person who owns the center of the Mediterranean, and I think they've got to give it to a major power, so... Yeah, it's got to go to a player. It's got to go to someone with a port in the Mediterranean or who controls the trade center. So, right now that's limited to France, Spain, and Venice has the trade center, so that doesn't count, or England. They can give it to any one of those three. It's a $50 trade fleet just like the other one, and the Turks get 20 extra bucks for handing it over to someone. I suppose they can sit on it and not take that 20 bucks. I'm not sure. I don't know if it says must or may. Anyway, they're going to have a significant boost in income. And what did we say? We're down 30. I don't know. Yeah, it's minus 10s. So we're down 30, we're down 40. So it's going to be a $60 boost in income plus another 20 for allocating it. And then 50 bucks for someone else. So it's an interesting addition to the income phase here for Turkey, and it'll give them a significant amount of wealth to help them do whatever it is they want to do at this point. It's tough to see what they want to do. They're pissed at France and would like to take France down, but France is a hard target for the Turks. So it's possible the Turks might do the same kind of proxy thing, but, you know, pushing into Cyrenaica and Tripoli, or trying to get an alliance so that they can seize Tunisia for themselves. That would be a positive advantage for them. They have this desire to get the Muslim allies. I don't know. Anyway, we'll come to that when we cross it, but that's about it. That's the end of the round. Nothing much more happened, just the Russians increased their siege value in Kazan. They do look like they're gaining on the Polish siege in Tula, which isn't getting anywhere. Stuyvesant, I didn't want to spend too much money on him, so I just ran him all the way up. Well, he died. But I think it was worth the risk. A good low roll, he might have successfully found something for 10 bucks that would have been quite valuable to someone. Well, the English are free to start sieging things now, and other than that, I think we're okay. I was just thinking to myself, the round seems over, and lo, it is. Bad roll there. That's bad really only, well, it's really bad for the English, because they just started their sieges. Their turn just started now that they got the royalists out of the way. And it's going to happen every turn, is they got to clear that army out of the way. It's a pretty standard thing of facing anyone, really. But the short turns make it very difficult for anything good to happen for you. Likewise down here, the Poles failed at their siege of Tula, but the Russians were close in Kazan, didn't quite make it. They only got a 10 this time. And the Poles have cleared up Smolensk. So at this point, it's kind of a situation where, well, maybe Russia still wants to try to seek that white peace. I mean, they certainly do. France would be perfectly fine giving that to them, I think, for the opportunity to try to bring Poland into the game against the Habsburgs. Anyway, I got all the administrative crap to do at the end of a turn, and we'll start with that. And we move forward into the 1665 turn. What happened? The Turks didn't get their peace with Poland. They needed a 6 or better. They were looking for a white peace. Just anything to get out of this, because then they can concentrate on these, increase their economic power between grabbing territories in Europe that are easy to get as opposed to the Polish stuff, and also expand this way, which was their plan before the opportunity to attack Poland came up. Elsewhere, well, the English really wish they could have gained some ground here. A few more rounds, maybe they would have at least gotten one territory. You know, this civil war could last forever if you know, they can never come to grips with it. I don't think the original one had that issue. I think the original one would sort of collapse on its own weight. The Aristo events prevent that from kind of happening. This is kind of the type of event that happened in the Russian times of trouble in the original game, though, which could just leave them paralyzed for the game, where they have to make a choice. Hey, maybe I don't want to win this thing. Maybe I just want out of it because I can't seem to come to grips with the opponent. And that's the situation the English are in right now. You know, how many turns have they been wasting losing the war, but only a little bit. And now they're winning it, at least it seems like at this turn, but well, only a little bit. They don't have the kind of force to bring it to an end quickly enough, and the turns of losing it have put them in a bad position. Of course, their opponent, France, could, and this would be really dicky, not prosecute the war to win it either. Never try to take Anglia. Just try to keep England paralyzed for the entirety of the game, which might be very much in their favor. Again, you can so much game the systems in this game, no matter how it's devised, no matter how it's set up. No one really went out of their way to try to tighten this thing up, and I highly doubt, from what I've seen in the EU8-9 stuff, that that kind of effort was made either. So this is the kind of game that a lot of people are going to, you know, either badly maul, and I'm very used to that in good old Empires in Arms. Looking for it here, but I think it's hiding somewhere. It's got to be up here somewhere. There it is. Anyway, where, you know, things that obviously weren't part of the design, this declare war on someone and then not actually prosecute it just to give it to someone, another player. That kind of maneuvering politically, well, there's all kinds of little things you can do in this game too. And in a sense, if I played with people like that, I would probably feel very boned and, you know, somewhat like I'm in the wrong group if they're playing the mechanics and trying, you know, to juggle the game in ways it's not supposed to be. I don't mind when people do juggling the game mechanics in something like an 18xx game, because in a sense that's been tightened down to the degree where, yeah, you're supposed to, you know, be able to do these, or maybe they represent something. You can dance around trying to figure that out. I try to dance around and figure these things out, but, you know, honestly, I don't think they're what's intended at all. There's sort of this clean design idea that flows through the center of a game like this, or Empires in Arms, and then there's this mess of brambles around it. That's this dark area that you can take advantage of. Anyway, where did I get into that? Well, what it really comes down to is, you know, it depends on the kind of people you play with. And I played a game of Empires in Arms with one guy who very much believed in misusing the miner's diplomacy in that way. Then again, you can play with people who are able to create really ridiculous diplomacy situations as well. So, you know, whatever. You might walk away from a game feeling really disappointed. And in some ways, that's why doing these solo is outstanding, because everything plays in a way that's consistent with my thinking. I'm not trying to cheat things, in my view at least. You could say, well, the French sure are going out of their way and capturing things and everything and spiking their victory points. Yeah, but they're getting something out of it every time. They're not trying to game the victory point system here. And then you could say, well, okay, but that's great for them because they have things near them. But what about other people who could game the system, get the same points, but aren't going to get anything from it? You know, someone like Turkey, you know, they could just every turn attack Cyrenaica and grab 5 victory points off from every turn. Why not that? Well, they may. They do have something to gain. They have, they can annex or vassalize the territories, and they can use them to strike at Tunis. Basically, I'm not going to aim just for victory points no matter what, without any logic underneath it. Anyway, enough babbling there. We scored the points for the turn. England actually pulled a decent amount of points this turn because of the victories they had, but they've been kind of stalling recently, so you know, it's kind of a painful thing. I noticed they forgot. They sent a guy out here to Acadia. They lost him due to the period change, but then they forgot to build the colony they intended to. Oh well, you know, that kind of stuff happens. They got one more turn to do it, and then it's free game for anyone, which kind of would suck. So hopefully I'll remember to do that. Likewise, the Dutch may want to go into our war, because fairly soon anyone can step in there. And, well, who better than Russia to do that? It's kind of interesting. The Turks could actually try to colonize, I think. I'm not sure if they have any attempts left. I think their period for colonization is done. Let's just take a little look. Yeah, they lost that last period, or 2 periods ago. Alright. They could do trading post last period, but yeah, they're pretty much done with their colonization unless they get a free attempt. I gotta give these royalists back. We'll put them down here somewhere. They don't have an army. Alright, well, I guess up this goes, because I've been babbling just for the sake of talking, it seems.